Teach Thrifty Living. I'm so glad you're here today. Today is Tea Tuesday. You can hashtag Tea Tuesday and see what everybody else is doing today. It is hosted by my friend Patty at Life with Patty and Kathy at Kathy's Favorite Things. Go over and check what everybody else is doing today. In the meantime, I'm going to tell you, since it's Tea Tuesday, I've got tea today. I pulled out one of my cups that I've had for a long time. You see, it's peaches, fresh peaches, 1 mile ahead. And I'm drinking a new tea today. It was discounted. It was $2. Black tea, and it's decaf, flavored with a secret recipe of orange rind and sweet spice. That should be good. Love the flavor of it. I need to sweeten it just a tad. I have been doing a glimpse in my life. This is episode 16. So if you haven't watched this, please go, if you would like, to my playlist and you can watch all of them. That I try to keep them not too long. And it's really my life story from before I was born till I got married, and now it's on further down the line. So with that being said, my last story I had told you, my then husband brought me and my 2 children, aged 15 and 17, back to my parents' home. He had found another lady. He went back up to our church where we had been the pastor. He resigned the church and moved in with the lady that he had found. I have to say that was a very hard, dark time for us. We didn't know what was going to happen. I really never thought of maybe there's a chance we would get back together. I don't think I even wanted that. As time went on, we settled in here. We were still at my parents' house. Thankfully, they took us in with open arms. Gordon and Gail got started in high school. Credit, he did bring us back. That was most important to us. A little bit of furniture. I don't think a lot, but some of the items, and he continued his life, and we was on our way to our life. I mentioned in a video quite a ways back that I had one really big regret in all of this. There was probably more, but this is the one that stood out the most, and even to this day. I had a book, actually the book when we got married. You know how they sign in at your wedding? Well, I had that book, but there was a lot of room in it. So every year I wrote in that book where we lived, a little short outline of what we've done all that year. You know, when you're hurt. Anyway, I took that out to my dad's burning barrel and burned that book. It was a whole record of where we lived, even addresses and so many things. That's probably one of my biggest regrets, is getting rid of that book. We had just celebrated our 19th wedding anniversary in December before this happened in January. There's quite a little blur on a lot of things we did, but one of the things, Gordon was buying a car that we had had extra, and his dad ended up giving it to him. So it was an old car, but we did have a little bit of transportation around there, but he had to get here and there, and he ended up getting a job at McDonald's also because he had already worked at a McDonald's before and he was experienced. And there's so many miracles here to tell, and I tried to write just a few of them down during this time. The first one, and Daddy had bought a new car, and by the way, he saved the money up every time and paid cash for it. Cars weren't quite as expensive as they are now, as you know. Well, Mama never drove, so he just didn't have the heart to get rid of the old car. He could haul things in it and not mess the new car up, so he kept it. Well, when I got there, he gave it to me for $100. And I went to McDonald's, since I had already worked at McDonald's before, I had already been experienced, and so when I went up to the McDonald's here in my town, I was able to get on, and I ended up working pretty full time, and um, got very comfortable with my job. The people were nice, and it's fast paced. And when they put me in drive-through, I thought I was going to go crazy. I thought I'm not going to be able to work here at all. It's so fast paced and so much happening. One person taking the orders and they're driving up to the window, and you got to get them in and out fast. At that time, the owner's daughter would sit across the street and use her binoculars and time us. So we had to get them in and out fast. I pretty soon got comfortable with my job, and I was okay there. Okay, so the next thing, I knew I wanted to get my children, my daughter and son, in a church that had a lot of young people and that they were really doing something. My mom and dad had a wonderful church. I'd been raised in that church, but it was all older people, and I wanted something that my kids would be excited about going. We went to a church over in another town, just real close, and it was nice. It was a nice church. Good music, everything. I'd heard about the church, and this is the church I go to now, and they had a Sunday night service, so we decided to go. So we go, and we set up close because that's what we've always done. Nobody knew us. We didn't know anybody. When we got in that church, the music was just beautiful. It was a happening church at that time, let me tell you. It was just like, it was a breath of fresh air to our weary souls. That's what I've always described it at that. This is so good. And I needed it. And of course, the people were friendly, and we ended up sitting behind the pastor's wife. I felt like since I had been a pastor's wife of another church, and we had been pastoring, I needed to talk to them and let them know where I came from. So I made an appointment with the pastor for the next day or two, and I went to see him and told him a little bit about where I came from. And before I left there, he said, now, if you need help with the first month's rent, we'll help you. We'll pay your rent. I couldn't believe that. And then, if that was enough, and I didn't need to, by the way, and before I left that place, they had given me $100, somewhere around there. I can't quite remember. The church I had been at, where we had pastored, like, that was hard for them. And I told them, I said, please, don't look at the men. We're going to fail. People's going to fail. But Jesus doesn't. He'll take care of us. They decided to take an offering up, and they sent me $300. They didn't have to do that, but it was a blessing to me and helping us get ourselves started in this new life of ours. Also, when we went to this church, the youth pastor and his wife, Dave and Patty, they just took Gordon and Gail under their wings. They were so kind to him and just included him and made him just feel so welcome. And of course, me being a mama and Gail always singing her whole life, and us, I play and she plays, and of course she went past my ability to play a long time ago. She'd played a lot and wrote songs. She started writing songs when she was really young. So I had to tell them that she played music, and of course they ended up having us sing and her playing. And before it was very long, she was on the worship team, and she played with them, and that was a real blessing to her. And Gordon, he got involved in the sound of the church, and in fact a radio program, and he did the sound of that too. So they've always been involved in that. So we're still at my mom and dad's. This time has been fairly fast. And a few years earlier than that, Mama and Daddy had bought another piece of property that had come available next door to them, and they had it had one. It was a long lot, and it was a corner lot, and it had a little old house and a bigger lot, and Daddy had decided to divide the property, and he decided to build a house to the house, a small house, and then he sold off 2 lots. Well, the house he built, he thought, well, maybe someday they would be too old to live in their bigger house, which was not really big, but the yard, this one, was a lot smaller. And they didn't move in it. They ended up renting it out. And the people that had rented it, they signed a year's lease on it. And Mama said one day, boy, it would be nice if they wouldn't have just signed that lease, that you could move there. Well, it wasn't very many days passed, and they come over and talked to my parents and said, we need to move. Would you mind if we get out of our lease? Well, they didn't mind, because that was in their head. Maybe that would be a place for me and my kids to live. We moved into this house that I'm in now. They rented it to me. You know, at that time, I don't know, maybe it's a generation, but they was always giving, but they, you know, didn't just like, here, you can pay for it a little bit. Anyway, but I had money to pay for it, and Gordon was working, and Gail was babysitting some, and my brother lived in the corner house. He brought his trailer in the corner, and eventually they tore that old house down. Those are little short things. We all had back gates that went into each other's yard. That was wonderful. Somewhere during that time, I decided I needed to go to school some. And we had a local college, and I started taking some classes. My aunt was a nurse, and she was able to help me get a job in a doctor's office where you did filing. And, you know, during that time, I ended up with this horrible cold. I don't know. It just like it hung on. I couldn't think good enough. I don't know what it was at the time, but I was just barreling through filing and like picking up files and take to the doctor's desk for them to, for whenever their patient came in, that kind of thing. And somehow, you know, it can get confusing. I know my ABCs, but at times it would get so, like, I couldn't think, like a K-H and this and that, you know. By the way, I had the girl that was training me. I don't think I've ever come across this before. I don't think the girl had really wanted me to learn my job. So I don't think I had really good training, and to go along with my head being all in the cold or whatever this was that I had. And so eventually I thought, no, this is not for me. And I got a job at a little corner market that sold gas, and that was more my style. And I would work there, got to know the people, and it was a nice little job for me. And next story, I'm going to stop here. My life gets a little different all along the way, so I hope you stay tuned and come back. And God was with me every step of this way. I'll tell you, he really was. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you'll come back and join me every time. Don't forget, it's Tea Tuesday. Enjoy your tea. Check and see what everybody else is doing, and please come back. God bless you. Oh yes, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. See you later.